So, welcome back to another episode of Spoiler Talk, where we talk spoilers. This week, we watched Venom. I feel like I have maybe a lot to say, but really it's just like, I've never enjoyed watching a movie where I only enjoy the middle act. Because the first 35 minutes is so boring and unwatchable and terrible and just, ugh. And then I was like, oh shit. No, I'm having a lot of fun now. He's got the venom in him. And he's all like, whoa, I'm punching and just jumping about and jumping in lobster cages and it was like a farce. And then it was just a weird CGI symbiote mess at the end, which I fucking hated so much. But Kieran, what did you think of Venom?
I'm inclined to agree with what you just said. If there is a good part of this movie, it's in the middle.
So when you say if, so you mean you didn't even... Because I genuinely was like, if we weren't doing this, I would have not watched the movie because the start is so bad. But genuinely, as soon as he has the symbiote in him, I was like, this is hilarious. Like the first moments he's just running and he's like, whoa! And he just smashes through a cage and rolls down a hill. And I'm like, this is a bit like silly. And then the next scene, he's running and you're like, he's going to jump this log. And he just smashes through it, falls over and he's like, what's happening? And then he's like, vroom. And I was like, I kind of like this now. And I feel like the movie should have just started with Eddie being like, I'm Tom Hardy, I'm doing a voice, whoop, whoop, whoop. And then he's like, goes in to investigate. He's like, I'm an investigator.
Immediately gets
and then he's like, oh, symbiote. Yeah, straight away.
The whole movie is
because
that's the best stuff.
I found so much of like the first and third act so like confusing, and it felt like it was 90 minutes and it felt like they had a 2.5 hour movie and they cut so much just stuff. Like the first scene, he's with his girl and she's all like pillow fighting, la la la, and they're like, he does one journalist kind of thing, doing what he always seems to do. Immediately she's like, I broke up with you, you've ruined your career, everything. And I'm like, this is what he does. He goes and probes and investigates. Like, what the fuck is happening in this movie? It just feels like all these beats need to happen because beats happen.
It makes her unlikable immediately.
It just makes her confusing. And it doesn't make any sense.
You knew what you were signed up for, and like you're working for a law firm, or what, is that what it was? Something like that.
I don't know. I've already forgotten.
Yeah.
Because what I really liked was that he has an ex that has like a new boyfriend that's a doctor, and this whole movie's I don't know if it was being serious or funny, but there's a bit where Venom eats like 50 guys. He like just murders everyone, and then she walks in and she's like, ah! And he's like, it's just me, it's Tom Hardy, it's all good. And then her response to him being a Venom monster and killing all these cops is, get in the car, we're going to the hospital, we're gonna get your temperature checked. And it's like, I was having so much fun, but it's so like, I feel like it's not meant to be fun and insane and silly, but then there's scenes where he jumps in a lobster tank and the doctor and the boyfriend's like, you've got a parasite. We need to get you. I don't know. It was just. I was having so much fun with it.
This movie kind of feels like it was made by someone who is themselves an alien symbiote observing human society. Like they don't understand how people work and interact and form relationships with each other, which is why none of the characters in this movie make any sense in what they do. Like a real symbiote attached itself to a Hollywood director. And then they made this
These scenes, this beats... Yeah, no.
It watched a couple movies and kind of vaguely worked out what a movie was. Like you said before, it feels like this was a longer movie that they cut down.
Yeah.
Does it even feel like that? Is there meant to be more here? Because I didn't get that vibe.
But like, I only say that because I feel like... I mean, for one, 90 minutes is crazy short for a superhero movie. They're 2 hours usually, like ish.
That's true.
So just for me, it's kind of like, well, that feels like when you're writing a script, they're usually just a certain length.
See, the Spider-Man movie that Sony made a few years ago, The Amazing Spider-Man, that I can feel where they've cut things out. This movie,
that's way different though, because that's like, that's that world buildy kind of.
I know that Sony do it, is what I'm saying. Like I just didn't really know where in this movie you would have taken anything. So I wonder if it was trimmed.
I guess
because it felt like wrong.
Because Venom, the symbiote Venom, not when they're combined, but like I don't know, whatever. But like when Venom's like, oh, this city, like it's almost beautiful. He's like, it's a shame it's gonna end or something. And it's just a throwaway line at that point. But then later on, he's like, I was actually going to take the rocket and destroy the world or something. But now I'm going to live here and be cool. And it's like, When?
Yeah.
What scene made you change your mind? Like, nothing's happened. Like, I mean, maybe I just blacked out because it's such a... I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I think there's not really any...
There's just no moments like that.
There's no progression of characters. Characters don't really do things that make sense. No characters do things that make sense. Relationships don't make sense between characters. Everything feels kind of just off a little bit. And it could be the result of like Sony fucking with the movie and trimming things out.
Or they just made a terrible movie.
But I was more inclined to think that this is just a director with sensibilities that are completely not my own. The same way when I watch a Michael Bay film, that I look at the
this is
the technical, the actual filmmaking on display here, I don't think I could ever do. Like, there's just so much at work here to sustain that level of production over an entire feature film. It looks hard. It looks like really hard work. Like, I have respect for it.
Yeah.
But none of it ever amounts to anything that makes me feel more than, wow, that is technically good.
Yeah.
And this movie is very, like, everything is just kind of the baseline. Like, the cinematography just is.
No, there's no anything. When you were saying the symbiote thing, that's pretty apt because it is just a studio movie that Sony just went, we need to just make a Venom movie because we can't make a Spider-Man movie and we need to do something.
But even that feels so like such a that's the wrong thing to do.
No, but that's just what they like.
They
were going to make an Aunt May movie. They were going to make a Madam Web movie. They were going to yeah, but they've been trying to do that for ages. They're going to do that in Far From Home 3 or whatever. But hopefully
with Morbius played by Jared Leto.
See, they're making Venom. That movie. It doesn't.
But Michael Keaton's in that movie, which makes that canon now with the MCU.
I don't. But it doesn't, because the MCU is just like, you can use us, but we won't use you.
We are now entering the period of the Sony MCU, which is a subset of the regular one, in which you have a Spider-Man that exists because Sony have leased it to Marvel, so he exists within the MCU canon. Then there's his own films, which are a joint venture between the two. And then there's this completely separate, we never refer to anything going on in the MCU, but...
It could be.
Yeah. In association... I mean, from the get-go, everything feels kind of wrong, like we're in a weird parallel reality. Like, the Marvel logo comes up and you're like, ah. And then it says, in association with, in really bold text at the top.
I literally don't remember.
And I'm like, oh, that just feels... Like, I'm thrown off immediately now, and then the Sony garb comes up, and I'm like, just aware of the whole production thing going on right out the gate, and it just felt so off. I'm just used to the Marvel logo being a thing, and when I see Fox and Sony, like, using it, like, we're in the club too. You're not, though.
Yeah, it's just really embarrassing.
I feel bad for you.
I feel like kind of cringy because I actually didn't see that because I probably put it on and then. Went and sat down and wasn't actually looking at the screen at the start because it's just logos or whatever. But that makes me feel like, I don't know, there's like that, like an interview I remember where Amy Adams that's the actor. It doesn't matter. The Sony lady, whatever. She's like, so Amy we're going to be, it's like something like, so Venom is going to be in the MCU. And then Ken Feige's just like,
cut.
What? And he's just smiling and you can just see him being like, this fucking bitch. And just ding, 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 just trying to figure it all out. But then he's just like, and it's so good. That's what I feel like when they're like, but then like it feels so like unfair because they make such a nothing movie.
They don't deserve to be in.
But it made like $1 billion. But only the middle part's good. It just no one I saw told me to see this. No one I know went to see this. I don't understand why everyone to see it. But then when I was actually watching it, like. It kind of made me go, this is a movie where I would highly recommend it. You put it on, go make food where it's just on in the background so you're vaguely aware of the story, and then come back half an hour in, you've cooked your meal, eat it, have a beer, watch the middle bit, and then if you're sick of it, when they're all splashing together, just, I don't know, go off and make a sandwich. It's like, half watch it, because I think the middle stuff, at least for me, the visual of seeing Venom in live action, like kind of proper, is kind of awesome. Like, just seeing him be Venom. Like, some of the times he opened his mouth and the tongue, and I'm like, this doesn't look bad. Like,
do you know what it is? If you any frame in this film. It looks
Okay.
excellent.
Yeah.
But in motion,
You're not a fan? I think
it's the
works.
best it's ever looked.
Yeah.
Sure, like the visual effects are like very high tier, but I think what you have is you have just a kind of flat generic production team behind
Yeah,
it.
it's everything behind the Venom design is terrible.
The same
movie's
visual effects
nothing.
company with a production team trying to tell a more interesting story, you have something special. But I think the kind of vanillaness of it all,
Yeah.
and then the good visual effects slapped on top, which literally we watched that first trailer, that's all it is they slapped it on top. Tom
Yeah.
Hardy, get on the motorcycle, we'll blow the two cars up next to you, we'll figure it out in post. That is what
the tendrils will do some stuff.
that's
or
what
whatever.
every action scene felt like. People on wires going, and then we'll figure the tendrils out in post. That's every fucking action scene.
I'm trying to think of one I enjoy, but I feel like I just like seeing him be...
Him running around is the most fun in the movie because
Yeah.
they actually had to like block it out and figure it out.
Before
But
his-
when it's 6 dudes in a room, it's like this guy gets thrown, then these two get thrown, then
Yeah.
that one gets thrown, then this, then it's done.
It's very... Yeah, I don't know. It's very flat, nothing kind of action. But I feel like literally just seeing like
Yeah.
Venom was like enough for me. It also had a very... Have you seen Upgrade?
No.
So a lot of people, when
Saw the
this came
trailer,
out...
it's all very...
Yeah, it's like the
That
guy...
looks very stylized.
The guy, as he punches and moves and stuff, like the camera's kind of with him, it's locked onto him.
Yep.
And so people are like, oh, it's kind of like Venom. But it's like, no, it's like one bit of Venom where he's like, boom, and comes up.
Yeah, yeah.
And they kind of do it. But in this, I really liked the... I don't know, man. There was just like bits where he's like eating lots of chicken and throwing it up. And he's like, what's wrong with me? And just freaking out. And he's like, oh, my hand's big. And he's punching, going like, whoa. And like, I found all that stuff pretty fun. But like, yeah, Upgrade. Everyone said this at the time. But Upgrade does it better. A lot better with a lot less money. But I kind of enjoyed Venom more in terms of just, I just like seeing him. But then actually seeing him versus Riot. Right, yeah. He's a weird... I don't...
It's a
It's
video game.
Yeah,
It just turns into a PlayStation.
But it kind of fascinates me that seeing Venom do the tendril stuff by himself, I find quite exciting. But and when he's fighting all the cops just flinging about, I'm like, I'd like to see him fight a super character. Like but then you see it and you're like, it's not going to work. And then in the sequel, they're like,
Do you know what it would be?
Carnage. But that's...
Do you know? Yeah. Do you know what would be good if he was fighting Spider-Man, which is
Yeah.
what he's meant to be doing. But
Yeah,
instead,
it's-
he's just going to fight other versions of himself, and it looks crap. And I don't want to watch more of it. And you can put Woody Harrelson in any wig you want. I didn't want to watch it.
Utterly embarrassed.
I only watched this movie because we're doing this.
Because I forced you.
and that coupled with we watched some really intense stuff the last few weeks, and you know, I think we both just wanted something a bit lighter.
Yeah.
And
I just
this
wanted to have some
this was
fun.
very light and very easy to consume. You know, like
Yeah.
I didn't have any trouble watching it, but I was waiting for it to wander into the realm of being hilarious, which it never really did, because the actors are just a bit too good at what they're doing, but the script is not good enough. There's just enough there that keeps it from being, I guess, hilariously bad.
Oh, yeah. No, it doesn't...
Like
yeah.
you've got Michelle, is it Michelle Williams, and that's
I don't know who
that's
that
the
is.
girl's name.
Right, yeah.
She's like a really, really good actress.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen her in so much stuff.
Yeah,
I'm
right,
pretty
yeah.
sure she played Marilyn Monroe and was really good at it.
Okay, yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
She's-
she's kind of nothing in this.
Yeah, but it's like Tom Hardy's like putting everything he can into this just kind of hollow, bad situation. And I don't even, it's not working. None of it's working for me. I'm not really getting invested with what he's doing. But maybe him doing that same thing with better material works. Because he works most of the time.
I think that...
Tom Hardy's great.
Yeah.
But he's not great in this.
The thing that I really was trying to like get over, because every time I enjoyed it, I was like, can you imagine how great Spider-Man 3 would be if the Venom symbiote attached and he was doing the funny voice and being wacky, running into buildings and being like, whoa! And then he fought Tobey Maguire. Like, I don't know, I was just like, because that movie is a farce, but turns in a weird... but then...
Self-serious at the end.
Yeah, and Topher Grace?
Yeah.
The 70s show guy is just so miscast. Like, I don't know, Venom's like meant to be all big and muscly, so I kind of feel like Eddie Brock should at least be big and muscly. But then I'm happy to get rid of that to have Tom Hardy, because Tom Hardy's just so fun.
Well, I mean,
and if you're doing a weird voice, get the weird voice guy.
Yeah, true.
He's the weirdest voice guy. I can just love where he's like, whoop, and he's like, got such a weird flavor to his voice. And his Venom, I think, is really good. Like the voice of Venom, I found
it super jarring the first time I heard it.
Oh, okay.
Do you know why? Because I've been watching a lot of movies with headphones, and
okay.
so I watch the movie on my TV in my living room. But because of the coronavirus working conditions, my partner's at home, kind of working in the same room. So I watch with I actually think headphones are better than.
Yeah, well, it gets a better sound.
Like I've got a decent speaker system. It's nothing fancy. It's just the bare minimum.
So much louder in your head though, without affecting.
And you get the surround experience really. Like you get, if you want the ultimate audio experience and you don't have a lot of money, just invest in really good headphones, and like it's amazing. But bad stuff really. When things aren't mixed well, you really, really notice.
Of course, this movie's probably not mixed as well as it could be. Like that doesn't.
It's not. It feels. It really, really stands out when you hear his voice. Venom's voice for the first time is like very kind of just separate and in reverse.
Just chucked on top.
Later in the movie, when it's kind of Venom running around and Tom Hardy becomes the back voice, his voice just sounds like he's speaking right in your ear, which I guess. Maybe it works being they're trying to get you into the headspace.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like an inner monologue type thing. Maybe that's why the voice is overpowering. Maybe that's what they were going for. But I just remember going, whoa. And then, I mean, I didn't even really register it was him. I didn't even really think about it until you said it was Tom Hardy. And then I was like, of course.
I honestly don't even know. I'm presuming. Because otherwise, why do you get him? Because he's doing a weird Eddie Brock voice. So presumably he's going to do a Venom voice. But I thought it was like... I think, the only thing about Venom's voice that made me sad is just the fact that almost all his dialogue is no good. Like, the first time he comes in, he's like, livers, pancreases, so many delicious treats. That's a bad Venom voice. I don't know what I was doing there, but, like, it's just...
not that far off. But, yeah.
And, like, at the end, which I kind of... Like, I love the idea of being, like, it's this lowbrow story where he's going to the shops and he's like, I should help the lady out at this convenience store. But he doesn't. And then, obviously, when Venom's like, bad guy, and he's like, that's a bad guy. I really like that. But then he does a whole speech about biting all his legs off. Now he's going to be a turd in the breeze. It's like you're going to be a floating turd in the wind or something. And just, I was so confused. I'm like, is that meant to be like funny? Presumably funny. I don't know, but I don't think that moment needs to be like funny. He should just be like, I don't know, man. It was so confusing to me. And obviously, then he bites his head off, and I don't need it to be gory. I'm not really the gore hound I used to be, but it's just...
Sony...
Can you imagine if Spider-Man was this and it was gory? And I don't know. It's just... Venom, I feel like, because I love looking at him so much, this movie should be one of my favorite movies. Like, if all the elements were working. So it's a shame that it's so visually bland. It's so... Like, the best bit's like a car chase with, like, a bit where he's like, whoa, and then the tendrils bring him back on the bike. It's like, that's nothing. Like, that's not anything. I've definitely heard this somewhere, but I don't know where, but probably when the movie came out, one of the reasons I never went to see it, it feels like a movie made, like, when the first X-Men movie came out. Whereas if you look at the X-Men movie...
Maybe a little after. Maybe, like, mid-2000s.
It's, but it's... There's a bit in the Fantastic Four movie... The original one with Captain America in it. And Captain America's the flaming guy. And there's a bit where he there's like a skiing sequence where he's like, or maybe snowboarding, and he's like, Cowabunga, dude! And it's like, dude, and like Sum 41's playing or some shit. And he's like, yeah! And he like falls into this thing, he's all on fire, and he's naked. And he's like,
thing ever.
It's just... There's a moment like that where I'm like, is this meant to be the cool he rides a motorbike bit? Where it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it has that flavor. It has that kind of, I don't know. But then it does kind of, I don't know.
It also has a Eminem song at the end, which really fits in that time period, doesn't it?
Yeah. For one, I just clarify, I love Eminem so much. And I was aware that he had this Venom song because so many people on so many videos I've seen, I don't even know if I'd seen this movie. Maybe I'd seen clips and just people talking about the movie. because like I was very aware of the Venom song because it's so bad, but I had forgotten. And then the movie ended, and I'm like, that's the end of the movie. That was it. And then it's like Venom, and it's like, this is so bad. It's so. It is just cookie cutter what you expect, because then it has like that post-credit scene that feels just like they're like, I don't know,
it's Sony making the same mistakes they
every
made
every time. And this one I think is even worse than when that dude walked into the basement and every single supervillain ever was just in a row in like, you know, Snoke in the Jar style kind of.
Yeah.
It was something like they were all in jars or whatever. Or
well,
something.
there were like Doc Ock arms. There was the glider. It was like the
they're just in the facility
super villain origin story.
And he walks past and like turns around and is like, next time or whatever.
It makes
this has that same thing where he just walks into a room. It cuts to a guy and he's like, I'm Carnage. Are you aware that the next movie has a title, Venom 2? Because obviously it's going to have a sequel, even though it's terrible. What's so amazing is it's so fucking atrocious. You know, like, because I had fun with it. I really did. But, like, I just love that kind of stuff. I just want to see, like, I was so surprised. I was like, oh, Venom's eyes, he's, like, moving. It's just so cool, but it's such a shitty nothing movie. You know, but, like, they're doing a sequel because it made $1 billion. It's called Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage.
Which is exactly the title.
Terrible title.
It's exactly the right title for a sequel to this movie.
Okay.
I feel like...
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because it's like...
If you're in for that movie and you hear the sequel is called Venom Let There Be Carnage...
You're like,
Venom,
sweet, Carnage will be in it.
That's exactly what I want more of. And the $800 million worth of people who purchased the ticket to the first one will do the same again and get a big... CGI video game monster fight on a bridge in you know what I mean, like and it'll be teal and orange and it'll be shot flatly and Woody Harrelson and Tom Hardy will be suspended on wires and a green screen going whoa, and then they'll put a bunch of shit over the top.
I found kind of fascinating is that like you have the two symbiotes attacking, but I don't know. I think with the visual effect and them doing the things, like something he's like, I got an axe, I got a spear thing, you know. It's a bit like Terminator 2-y, you know, where he kind of gets the weapons and molds him into those things. And there's a bit where he's like, and spikes everywhere. And it's like, there's some fun stuff you can do. But I just don't understand how, like, you know, when you like watch something, you're like, so many people make a film, especially a film like this. It's not just like if we made a short film and I'm like, I want to do this. And you're like, I disagree. I'm like, well, it's my movie.
Yeah.
It's like there are so many people with so many things. So many people must have looked at the scenes where like they're coming out of the symbiote thing, because there's like a slow-mo shot as they're both. He like rips open the mouth to reveal the face, and it just, I don't know. I found that so awkward and painful to look at. It just felt so embarrassing and cheap. And then like at the end of the movie, they go full just cringe, and he's like face, which just looks so cool as Venom, splits off, and you see Tom like Hardy's face, and he's like, I'm here too, we're Venom or whatever. Oh, and it just, for me, those effects like really pissed me off and made me like cringe. I just hated it. It reminds me of when Venom's in Spider-Man 3 and he goes whoosh, and he's got the Venom like lines there, and it's just Topher Grace's face, and it's like,
with weird
stop doing this. I feel like they do it in the Marvel movies a bit too, where Tony Stark's like, it's me, sexy man Tony Stark. It's like, just, no. Just give me everyone just leave their masks on. Everyone stop having to have screen time. It's pissing me off. I just want to see them in the costume, you know what I mean?
Especially with Tony Stark, because he has such a good, like, close-up.
The thing, it's, and
it's why his movies work so well. I heard someone talking about this recently, like, one of the big reasons Star Wars works is because at any point in the movie, you can cut to a Wookiee or a droid, and you have an insert shot to fix any scene. It's like, no matter what Star Wars movie you're in, you have like you have a creature that doesn't speak English that is basically doing nothing, and you can and you know, if you've edited a scene before with multiple characters, everyone's reached a point where they're like, the scene doesn't work. Yeah. Like, I need to really like rejig things, and like this person isn't standing in the right spot in this shot, and it doesn't fit together. Cut to BB-8. And
That's so...
And that is a large part of why Iron Man works so well, because he's got the perfect...
You can cut into the inside and it flashes
no matter
away,
what action sequence you're in, no matter where you are in the movie, if he's in the suit, you've got a perfect cutaway shot and
That's
you can fix the scene. And
Yeah.
it speeds scenes up, it gives a greater sense of pace.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
And I think it's a large part. I mean, Star Wars is a formula, just like Marvel movies. I guess Sony movies are now too. The formula for Sony is just do all the horrible shit and it keeps the money and it keeps it working. So
What?
but I had a central point there that I kind of lost.
As in you lost it, or
I think so. I guess it was just the editing point. But
so you're saying Venom doesn't have something like this in terms of like, would you want to cut into to see Tom Hardy's face with Venom? Is that what you're implying?
No,
I don't think that works.
No, I don't think that works. I just listening to what you were saying about cutting in with Topher Grace's face.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
That was one thing that always did bother me about Spider-Man 3. Was like when the head would open up, there's now no room for where his body should be. So I guess the symbiote just breaks the body that it's attached to down and then rebuilds it as it needs it.
I just don't think they think about it, you know?
Yeah.
They're just like, what?
Which I guess is also the rule in this new one. I have to say though, before I watched this movie, when the trailers came out for it, and when people were talking about this movie, all I could think was, this is a movie about a villain whose entire look is based upon another character that this production company is not legally allowed to use in this movie.
Yeah.
So they better have a pretty good damn excuse for why he looks like Spider-Man in the movie. And then I'll be totally cool with it.
Yeah, that's insane.
They don't have one.
That's insane to think they do anything like that. They're just going to have him be Venom because Venom.
So and he just is that. He just looks like Spider-Man just because that's what they look like. That's what this alien looks like. But that's not what Venom is like. It takes the shape of whatever it attaches to. So they've got the Venom iconography, the look of the character, which is based on the look of Spider-Man and the symbiote attaching to Spider-Man's outfit. It doesn't make sense. Like, fundamentally, you misunderstand the very nature of this character. In the sense that the design is a part
it's like a mimic of,
But even broader than that, the idea of the character, I guess, and the idea of most villains is that they are the dark side of the hero and the shadow of the hero.
And he's quite literally like a double combination of like, most superheroes have like it's me, but they're in the dark costume, you know, it's like it's the...
but it's also the human side with Eddie Brock.
No, 100%, because I feel like, I don't know, just the way it kind of works where it's just like, they both hate Spider-Man separately, both entangle and both kind of... It's like meeting someone at a bar and being like fucking having a... It's like they're bitching about the same guy and they both go, hey, should we team up? And I just... That works really well. And it's such a shame because I really think that Tom Hardy and Tom Holland, you bloody double Toms, it would be such a cool movie. But now, like you said that, I'm like, oh, that's right. Like, if they then team up now, it's going to be really weird. And like, how good would it be?
If does Tom Holland go, why does Venom look like?
Well, exactly. It's gonna have this weird, like, doesn't make sense.
Do you know what the perfect Spider-Man film would be for me?
Yes. No, I mean, no, Tom.
The whole thing is an origin story, cutting back and forth between Peter Parker and Eddie Brock, body horror style, getting their powers.
All right.
And you're just following both characters as one becomes Spider-Man and one becomes Venom, and they're linked. Their origin stories are linked together, and that's how you do the first movie. And you maybe end it with a fight, and it runs parallel to the fact they're both these characters who have had kind of incredible power thrust upon them, and you know, individual decisions made by those characters lead to these circumstances. Maybe it's just part of the circumstances they were in and some of the decisions they made, and you know, the parallel between those two characters is to me what is interesting about those characters. And if I were telling that story, that's how I would really want to see it told, as the two parallel each other, And I think that would be a good way to present it in a movie, even though you're never going to be able to do it because we've had the Spider-Man origin so many times.
Yeah.
We already have a Spider-Man. We already have an animated Spider-Man. Now we already have a side villain universe with a bunch of other characters that might become part of the main universe.
Oh my god.
Who knows? It's just...
I was just thinking, it's like, I don't know if I'd want to see another Spider-Man origin, just in terms of like, I think my favorite aspect of Civil War, his like 6-minute intro scene with Tony Stark, is like he gets the most emotional stuff by not talking about Ben. But we all know.
But but does that only work because it came out in 2016
100%.
after we got to read?
No, it's only in the context. Like before the podcast, we were talking about the Into the Spider-Verse, the greatest Spider-Man thing ever. But that only works now the way they made that movie because of
the context.
They even
of Spider-Man.
put Sam Raimi's stuff where he's like, we don't talk about that bit. You know, it's like they even put stuff in, but it's so ingrained in the lore. That's why he can be the Obi-Wan type in that movie. It wouldn't work unless, even just as a movie, because I think those movies have to presume, like me, never read a comic about Spider-Man. But I probably know more about Spider-Man than Batman, even though I've read a bunch more Batman, just because I've seen so much Spider-Man like movies and shit.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, all these villains are so cool as well, so I like Googling them. I would like to see them. It's such a shame because like, this movie made money. And it's like, if this movie hadn't made money, do you think they would have been able to like go, we'll take Tom Hardy and just do it again? Like,
no. If it doesn't make money, then
no. But like, put Venom in with Spider-Man in Spider-Man 3 again. But then again, you don't necessarily want to do that again. So maybe Spider-Man could have his whole movie. I don't know. I just think it would be so cool if Venom had his movie and then Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man's like running away from the Sinister Six. He's like, I can't do this. I'm just a simple Spider-Man. And then Venom's like, I've got your back, bro. Remember that time you were in my movie? And we've already had our backstory in my movie, so I can just come in. I don't know. I feel like because we're so far beyond, we've already had Venom. I feel like I don't necessarily need to see his origin. Like, I feel like if he rocked up...
I want
to see it?
Yeah, because I want it done well. And I would actually kind of like... I mean, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man origin is kind of the archetypal quintessential kind of, just your standard...
cookie cutter.
Yeah, and it's effective and it is what it is. Yeah. And then Amazing Spider-Man's one feels like kind of redundant and repetitive
Weirdly
and
dark.
too quick. And I don't know, like it doesn't... It didn't... Yeah. Nothing in that movie works quite as well as the first Spider-Man does because it's all... Feels like it's just a little bit more rushed and a little bit less polished and just by not quite as good a filmmaker.
If that movie had made the Lizard Man's mouth big though, I would have forgiven that.
But the problem is not the fact that we keep getting an origin story. The problem is only if we get a bad origin story. We got another Spider-Man origin story in Civil War. It was just done well.
Yeah,
and avoided things that we
already seen.
That the audience was screaming out, we don't want to watch this again. So they just... And that's what Marvel are really good at. Like putting their ear to the wall and listening to the audience and going, all right, this is really what people want. And let's kind of amalgamate it for the most part. This movie makes me appreciate Marvel humor, Venom. Because Sony humor is just shit. It's the turd rolling down the hill.
Oh yeah, the jokes are off. The parts that I found funny, like genuinely really funny, were like, he gets in a lobster tank. He's like, oh, it's all good now. And I'm just, the absurdity of like the parasite joke doesn't make me laugh, but I kind of like the idea, like the farcical idea that he has an actual parasite, but we know it's this whole thing. But this doctor's like, I've got to cure you with doctors and MRIs and like, I don't know. But also I feel like how crazy, like if you're going to get rid of if you're going to use a Spider-Man-less Venom, you should have made it real fucked up, like body horror-esque. Because there's some like, the idea of the symbiotes, like there's one bit right at the start of the movie and I'm like, is this going to get Suspiria level, like creepy? And it goes for like 3 seconds. I'm like, oh, and then he drops and it crawls out with just the CGI nurse. And I'm like,
looked like a contortionist.
It started, it was like playing with that idea, but then it didn't really do enough with it.
No.
Like, I don't know. I feel like you could do some really wacky stuff.
That should be the best part of the movie is like the symbiote
trying to get into
but it just
bodies.
Kind of fades in. It's just it's not a great effect and it's not like particularly engaging to look at and it you don't really feel it any other time than the contortionist guy when it rejects.
Yeah, and that's super
And the
great.
symbiote looks so good when it's like skin colored, and looked super fake when it was any other color. I found it never looked better than when it like at the beginning of the movie when it's like a weird just skin color and red and veiny.
Yeah,
it never looks better than that.
Actually, you're right. That bit was fantastic.
When it looks when it's black later on, I'm like,
it's
like a visual effect.
It looks like a visual effect.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I'd have to just rewatch Spider-Man 3 to be sure, but it's like I feel like it kind of looked as good as it did then when it's like.
Yeah.
But at least in that movie, it's all like vroom, vroom, and he's like even that director who hates Venom at least I think he did a better job with like the way there's the symbiote like crawls onto the spider suit. And he hates Venom, and he didn't put any effort in, and it still had more like feeling. I feel like,
yeah.
In this,
you're right.
It really didn't have any feeling. It was me just being like, you know what, Tom Hardy is really fun to just see do stuff on screen. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just enjoyed that.
This movie is to Spider-Man 3 what The Amazing Spider-Man is to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
I see what you're saying.
In that it kind of looks slightly more modern and polished in some areas, but none of that makes up for the fact the big fancy CGI lizard and the big fancy CGI Venom don't make up for the fact that you've missed all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll take motorcycle helmet Green Goblin, you know what I mean, like over this inferior version, and even Spider-Man 3 feels like a better made movie than even this again.
Oh, I
know,
actually
and that is a mess.
Well, I actually love that movie. I think that, I even like the bits where it's like do and Sandman's a great villain. There's some incredible. Almost every scene of Sandman's pretty great, and I don't know.
I think people probably suck the dick of Spider-Man 2 a little bit too much.
Yeah, it's because Doc Ock's a cool villain.
Is he?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I really like him.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong, but what new did he bring to the table that we didn't get in another villain? He looks cool.
The horror elements of how they actually incorporate the really practical octopus legs.
Apart from
really
aesthetics, what is good about is the writing good? No. Like the writing is just like stock.
It's the same.
It's just
yeah. No. But like, I think
vanilla.
it is stuff like there's a bit where like he's like getting experimented on, or are they trying to get the suit off or something? I can't remember. But the things like
again, like the great sequences within the movie do not make a great villain. You know what I mean? And like him fighting Spider-Man on the buildings looks fantastic, and the sequence with the arms always look great. The aesthetic of the villain is great. They fixed that over the first movie where the aesthetic of the villain looks no good.
Yeah,
you know,
but it's
and
so
it
classic.
Looks very dated.
I just kind of accept, which is lucky enough to have loved it as a child.
I think Spider-Man 2 works more for what it does with the central character, Peter Parker, his journey.
Yeah, so I actually find that kind of a bit like, I hate it when a character's like, I've lost my powers, I'm having a big whinge about it.
But it did that the best.
Sure. I actually don't like those bits, yeah.
Yeah, you don't like them when you're a kid because that's like...
I haven't rewatched it for so long.
It's the lull of the movie, and it's like... It's more, when you're a kid, it's more fun watching Spider-Man 3 because everyone's swinging around doing crazy shit and there's just stuff on the screen the whole time.
So much colour coming in my face.
But as soon as I'm like, you know, into my teenage years, I'm like, nah, the Spider-Man 2 has way more going on.
I haven't rewatched the Spider-Man series, but my main remembrance of watching Spider-Man 2, because I have a mate that loves them and loves the second one the most, and we started watching it, and I honestly was like, it's just women screaming. Like, there's so many women just screaming.
I feel like that's just Sam Raimi.
Yeah,
His sensibilities are like he's a very
old school horror Evil Dead kind of like, but yeah, I don't know. I just think
even that sequence that you're talking about with the arms, how many women are screaming?
Probably
and
all of them.
and it teeters right on the edge of comedic too.
Probably,
which is what he does in Evil Dead.
Which is probably what I enjoy about it, because Evil Dead was like, at least when I was like 15 to 18, my favourite movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but I'm sure I don't love it the same way, because I'm just not the gore hound. But his visceral feeling, actually it probably is, because I'm just thinking of scenes in that movie where it's like, the Evil Dead's like, rah, rah, and it's just him on a motorcycle running through the woods, and it's just like, he has that frenetic energy where you're like, when he's like, I just put Bruce Campbell on a thing by his neck and just hurled him through a car, and you're like, yeah, because that's what it looks like. He just tried to kill him a bunch of times and he just let you. So I think I just like that visceral feeling of his stuff.
What do you want out of a Venom sequel?
I mean, honestly, it makes me so angry. But we're saying in this universe, I'm not...
With what we've got
I don't have
already.
Spider-Man. All right. Fuck, man. I don't even know.
Can it be good?
No. Everything they did, they can't do again. Like, I'll just watch the lobster scene again. Like, you can't do it again because the Parasite joke is done now. It's like, he's a Venom. We know he's a Venom. At the end of the movie, she's like, he's a Venom. Do you still have the Venom in you? And he's like, oh, no. Stop talking to yourself like you've obviously got the Venom in you. What are you doing? He's just telling everyone. Goes into the grocery store, he's just like, I'm Venom. I'm a big monster. And I just ate a man's face off. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know, man. So a guy outside would be like, what the fuck? Eddie Brock's a Venom. Like, it's so...
Him walking into the store and having that encounter and just the like simplicity with which the criminal interacts with like this is not anything resembling the real world. This is not how shakedowns happen.
He
this
comes
in
like a gangster, but he's got the gun. Like, he wouldn't need the gun. He'd come in and be like, give me the money. Like, it'd be a different exchange.
Just so
yeah.
it's someone who only knows humans through watching movies and then is extrapolating that again.
It's
and
very studio executive.
Yeah, it's like these Sony movie executives just don't. I think. No, they don't go to stores and do things like this. I guess they have a person who does it for them.
Yeah.
So they're so detached from it.
Yeah, they have no idea what's going on.
Sitting on a lot somewhere.
Yeah, even just like the way you introduce like the loving couple for the 2 seconds you have, it's like she's literally having a pillow fight with him.
But is it even a pillow? Doesn't she like smack him really hard?
I don't.
And then
I just remember.
Then they're kind of quipping but being mean to each other.
That
was my memory.
Okay.
I think.
I just remember cringing and being like, "This is going to make me so angry." And then somehow that faded. Maybe it was just that at least something was happening when he became Venom, you know? At least, because there's so much stuff at the start where it's just like, what is this? Like, oh, I'm so glad I remembered this. I always fucking forget something. I've still got to record how angry I am about the Joker ending, which I forgot to mention in our 50-hour Joker-thon. It's so bad. But the start of this movie, that's what really pissed me off. Like, I didn't get the thing, but it's like, it starts. It's a symbiote and it falls into the ground and it's like, and then a truck explodes or something.
The ship crashes.
Sure.
So ship entering the atmosphere.
Okay, is that what happened?
Crashing.
I've already forgotten.
I'd forgotten too, but as you said, opening of the movie, I remembered that we see the ship crashing and things are going on, but we don't see any of it. And this movie is the definition of tell, don't show.
And then, yeah, because...
But spend $100 million doing it.
Somehow, it doesn't... The visual effects was really good, but not like so much where I'm like, that makes sense you had to spend this much money. Because that start scene, it's like, I don't want to see Venom being like, I'm Venom, it's first scene. But maybe I do, to be honest. But the start of the movie is a car flipping or exploding or something. And then it opens up, a lady walks out, she just kind of walks away. You get a bit of a heel thing, but that's like... I'm not impressed by that. That's like Supernatural does that like every 3 seconds, like just that kind of cheap visual effect thing. It's just that, you know, that doesn't excite me. I'm not like, oh my god, it's healing.
Yeah,
it's healing. Everything does that. It's like it's the most generic thing anything can ever do, and it's not even an interesting like leg snap and move up. There's so many cool ways to do it. They just kind of have the black ooze go over it, like that bit where Venom's like, oh my legs are all broken, and they get fixed when Venom fully gets revealed. It's just so nothing. But that start bit. Lady walks off into the woods, and then it's like, Venom. What is that? That is such a nothing scene.
Yeah. We don't know how to start our movie. Let's just it's like you can see the script. Ship crashes. Lady walks out of car.
It's very 45
titles
episode. Yeah, it's like if this was a Spider-Man TV series they were making on CW. This is how you must start the Venom epi. Sure. Yeah.
You know, and they would have less money to do it, but it would be the same thing.
It would be exactly the same thing, but you'd probably be more impressed because you'd be like, oh my god, did they actually crash a truck? The budget on this episode.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The contrast is so different when you put it into a different context. Maybe this would have been a great telly movie. They made on nothing. No, actually.
If Tom Hardy was in it and it was a TV movie and it was like a big, you know,
I'd just be so much more forgiving, you know, like
for sure.
Another thing, I'm so glad I remember all these things. Another thing that I fucking absolutely loathed, the villain. I can't believe we haven't even mentioned him.
Is it Riz Ahmed?
We've been talking for an hour. We've not mentioned the villain once. The
It's
dude
just-
from The Night Of.
The what?
There's a TV series called The Night Of, or something like that.
Oh.
And he's like in a taxi, and then he's like having some drinks with the girl, then he wakes up and she's dead. He's like, I didn't do it! Maybe he did.
Oh.
And it's like this really intense drama.
Good.
I remember really enjoying it, and he's really good. And he's like in prison dealing with it. And it's just the family's dealing. It's just this fucked up. He probably hasn't murdered this person. Maybe he has, but he probably hasn't.
Right.
But he's going to be convicted for it. And it's just a fucked up drama kind of horror story in a way. You know, horror in that real way.
And he was in Rogue One, yeah.
Because he was in The Night Of and it was good.
Right.
He was suddenly just in everything.
Yeah.
And Venom were like, we need to get the guy now. The way Disney is like, they made something and everyone like, grab him. And then they're like, oh, that might have been a one-off thing. Let's just talk about, you know, it's like, it's that.
Yeah, yeah.
They got him. Oh, spoilers. He's not like a versatile actor that could just do everything.
No.
Don't put him in this movie. He's fine. But because, you know, he's...
What is he? Fast talking CEO?
What is he? He's nothing. No,
tech
he's absolutely nothing. Like just when he gets interviewed at the start, he's just like, and he threatens him, and it's just there's just nothing there. But the thing that I really want to mention that really fucking angers me so much is his whole plot is like, he's always talking about gods and deities. Like, I don't know. He's always talking about this like humanity is bad. People suck so much. That's like, all right. Why do you think this? Like, we need to go home. Okay, so he thinks that the human body is weak and fragile. That's his whole thing. But he just keeps saying it.
Is that his thing? Yeah.
Isn't it?
I don't know.
No, okay.
I can't even...
I'm like, fuck, I might even just be misremembering because it's so bad. But
No,
no,
I think
he keeps going like, because there's a bit where she's like, something saying, he's like, human bodies, so pathetic, and the only way we need to combine them. Have him then, halfway through the movie, after he's just murdered someone to do this, go home, both his kids are like cancer patients or in a coma or something.
Oh, you
where
mean humanize him somehow?
Yeah, put a story element in.
Yeah.
But have it
do something. Yeah.
everything. Do anything. Sorry, not everything. Do anything. And I just feel like even just going home and having have that like Mr. Freeze kind of like, oh, but he's doing everything for such a good reason, but he's kind of a bad guy in that kind of really broken like. And I just think that would be really cool to be like he's found this symbiote and he's like, I don't know, and then he could go mad and like put it on one of his kids and then it kills him and then he's like, fuck. Or like, or that's the reason he tested on himself because like...
You're just fixing the movie.
But instead, he just is evil for no reason, hates humanity, and I just feel like, yeah, every time something like that happens, you're like, what the fuck's going on? Oh, shit. Oh, that makes... You know, and it all kind of clinks in. And what would have been so cool is if maybe... it makes me so angry. We follow Riot just off with characters in like somewhere in Asia, just for like so many just cutaway scenes where they're just like eating like a thing and then just kills everyone and it just keeps going. And then suddenly there's a little child in his office and he's like, what are you doing here? And then the little child's like, boom, I symbioted you. And it's like, what the fuck? The villain has been doing this whole thing with the symbiotes and then randomly, to coincidence, for no reason, the villain symbiote just walks in and finds him and then goes, let's do this. Whereas the whole thing's about symbiosis and connection and like the whole point that Venom finds Eddie, he's like, we're going to make this work, baby. Even though that whole thing is rushed and nothing, but they got to make it work because it's dangerous and he wouldn't let go of Eddie Brock because like they work together. And
yes.
So Riot just happening to come into this guy and then it's a match. Hey, baby, it's...
Like, you've just set it all up for nothing. Why did you do it?
It makes me so... Yeah, it makes no...
Yeah.
It's just like they got to a point and went, oh, shit, who's going to be Riot? I guess it'll be the main bad guy. We'll just have the little girl walk in and... Because then the next time he comes in, he's just like, where is Venom? I'm a symbiote now! And it's like, oh, my God, I don't know why I'm so... I didn't really bother me. Now I'm thinking about it. It's really frustrating, just insane, because, like, these weren't ideas that I formed as I was watching. I was literally just like, yeah, I want to give him something. I'm going to pitch you anything. And I'm already like, I kind of like the idea of them being cancelled. Like, I don't know, like his whole family's been fucked over by human beings having these awful things. And then the whole symbiote being able to heal you is like, but it doesn't matter. There's so many cool things. I think I haven't actually seen the new Fantastic Four, but I heard there's a lot of like, it was meant to be a body horror, but then they kind of botched it. There's weird...
Well, the problem with that movie is they just reshot.
Right, okay. Well, yeah, I've only seen YouTube videos. But for me, hearing that it was meant to be a body horror and there's probably... And like, that there's seconds and images where you're like, oh, just take that and make that the whole movie. That's the frustrating part of this. Is I feel like there's those weird moments, like the bits where I'm like, a body horror about a scientist who like finds this thing that can heal his family, but then it connects to him and it drives him mad and this and that. Whereas in the end, it's like Venom's like, we're all going to go back to my home planet and bring 1 million symbiotes here and destroy the world. Oh wait, twist, I'm not going to do it for no reason because I'm the good guy. I'm an anti-hero, but I eat people's faces. But it's PGs when it's short, so it's like, oh my god, I hate this movie so much now. I've changed my mind. Venom is no good. I just think...
Well, just not... It really just boils down to none of the characters have been thought out or thought through.
Because we don't have time. We need to make a Venom movie to make some money.
There's no themes, there's no ideas, there's no nothing. This movie is not about anything. It's not. It's not trying to do anything. It's not even. You can't even really.
Right. It just,
like you were saying so much about the villain before, and I started to think, was I even paying attention? And then I realized, no, I was, because I remember everything you're saying. I think I just got to a point with the movie where I realized you haven't put any effort in.
I won't put any effort.
I'm not gonna even try and think about it. So I'm gonna take whatever I can get out of here, and there was nothing.
Yeah.
It's a mid-2000s, middling...
Do you think maybe...
Yeah.
Do you think maybe the script was actually written? Like when they made the first Spider-Man movie, someone's like, I'm going to write
No, I don't think the script was written at all.
Burn. Got him good. So who made this?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to find out, but I just lost interest with it. Like I lost interest with the movie.
Because the next one's going to be made by Andy Serkis.
What?
Yeah, because it's all visual effects and shit. They're going to have two men in pinball ball suits running on a bridge at each other, being like, whoop, 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 symbiotes. But maybe he'll use the symbiotes.
Do you even need
tendrils?
I feel like these characters are so inhuman that the motion capture is almost completely
I don't know if they did any for this. Did they? They would have?
I don't think you would. No, but I don't think it adds anything. I don't think putting motion capture into something that is meant to be inhuman. I mean, motion capture is to humanize, to get the almost imperfect elements of human motion and then digitize it and animate it so that it looks just imperfect enough to be real. You know, it's essentially the dots on the suit line up to dots in the computer. Yeah. And because the way you walk is imperfect, that sells it a bit more. But if it's a giant gelatinous monster,
gelatinous, good phrase.
Like it can do kind of anything and become anything. Do you need Andy Serkis?
Maybe he wants to make it feel less like a CGI nothing at the end and make me go...
There's ways to this. Well, you're doing the wrong movie, Andy Serkis. You need to go do a Hulk movie. And then you can really use your skills because we need that humanized. And I feel like they get better and better. Match. Yeah.
That's...
You need to go and... Yeah, I mean, just go and do anything else with a big CGI character that needs you. That needs, the performance, the body performance, because they're two separate things. And then the ability to shoot it and implement it all together. And I mean, they've done a really good job developing the Hulk effect.
Yeah, because I was actually really excited for him. But now you're phrasing it like this. It's like, yeah.
What does he offer that
I guess it's just that because he made Mowgli as his first
Wasn't
movie.
that no good?
But it's not about that. Just like the story, it doesn't matter. The visual effects and the way they are implemented is probably technically very good. I don't really remember.
But again, you're misusing him because you don't get him to do animals unless it's an ape. An ape is the most human animal, and it makes sense that he's...
But what if we're going to like the symbiote world, for instance, and it's just going to be a bunch of gelatinous gel goo just everywhere?
Then do we want it to look human?
No, I just mean they want to get someone who's a visual effects artist.
He's not.
No, but
yeah.
Oh no! What am I saying? But
he's not that.
No, he's not that. What am I saying? I'm getting confused with what I'm thinking.
He's an incredible performer.
Yeah,
he's a performer. He's good at putting.
Am I thinking of someone else?
No, it's just like I guess
I'm getting it mixed up.
It's easy to lump visual effects. I guess
it's just because Mowgli's all CGI. So in my brain, I'm like, at least he knows. Maybe they just want a director who's like, just knows that and is famous, so people like me are tricked into being excited about this terrible movie. That's it. I think that's it. I'm just excited.
But
that
Andy
Don's
Serkis
making
has
it.
never done anything to suggest that he's a capable director. Because
Mowgli's not that bad.
well, yeah, okay.
Maybe it is.
He was the second unit director on the Hobbit trilogy. That was his film school.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just getting
probably
defensive of him because I like him. I don't know why. Yeah,
Someone being
He's
a
such a
good
good
actor
guy.
is not someone being a good director.
yeah.
You know?
That
And
is
he
very
is
true,
a
yeah.
very good actor and a very good performer.
Maybe he'll bloody prove us wrong. Though, you know? Maybe
I don't know.
The realest Venom you've ever seen. Maybe they're gonna strip it way back and go, you know what actually really worked? Tom Hardy just having gelatinous goo pop out of his real human body. Because for me, I found that a lot more fun because it was like, this is weird. Whereas when he's Venom, it's like, this is a...
Big CG.
I don't know, that kind of actually worked for me, the build. I remember seeing the trailers and being like, what the fuck? He's not even going to be Venom, is he? Like, you know he's not going to be Venom for the last 10 minutes. But that actually kind of worked for me, because then when he became Venom, I'm like, look at Venom. Venom's on the screen. And like that build-up, monster-wise. Like the one bit I think actually I really liked was the smoke screen scene. And Venom like picks everyone off, kind of. And then we start getting some big, nice like shots of him. But at the same time, I reckon if someone really creative and like a huge Venom fan who's like thought about their perfect Venom movie forever would just be like, hey, I just scripted this scene. And the way they'd use the tendrils and the way, you know, I'd be like, oh no, this is very generic and cookie cutter as the rest of the movie is. But I just think visually, I liked that spectacle set piece, even though it's nothing. They're just like, he's up on the roof, shoot him. Oh, he's down there, shoot him. Where is he? Can anyone see him? And he's just picking them off very like, yeah. I guess it's just good things are happening.
I just wanted to raise a like miraculous discovery I've made.
Oh my god.
The director of Venom. So Venom came out in 2018.
Yeah.
Do you know what the movie he directed before that was? In 2013, Gangster Squad.
What?
That was his last movie before Venom. So he directed Zombieland.
So somehow he's actually made, like, honestly, with that in mind, Venom's pretty good. I've changed my mind. I'm back on board.
Do you like Zombieland? Because people really fall in one. I feel
It's
not really anything towards it. I don't hate it. I don't really love it.
I used to hate it because people used to think because I like zombies that I like Zombieland, and it's the same issue I'd have where I'd be like hanging out with someone, they'd be like, oh, I remember seeing that zombie movie you made for that band, that music video. So you like The Walking Dead, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna fucking kill myself. No, I do not like The Walking Dead. Why? Do you watch The Walking Dead? They're like, oh, I love The Walking Dead. It's the greatest show ever. And I'm like, oh, this. So that Zombieland falls into that camp of like, I don't like zombies for zombies. I like, and for humor. It's like, there's something insane and intoxicating and bizarre and hilarious and just weird and of an era that I wasn't a part of these 80s and early 90s slapstick, gory. Like there's a feeling of seeing like a decapitated head be held here, and I can just see the shoulders under the cape, and I can see the effects, I can see the things, but I'm also overwhelmed by like I don't know. It just When we do Brain Dead, you will understand what I mean. That's the best zombie movie. No other zombie movie needs to exist. It's so good, and it does everything I want. Zombieland is like, oh, you need to be good at cardio. Fat people don't survive. It's just the jokes didn't work. Woody Harrelson being like, I want to find a fucking souffle, Twinkies. For some reason, that's awesome to me. A Twinkies. Also, I hate it. I hate that fucking movie.
You're saying things that I kind of remember.
I feel like that's some like a mispopular, like a wives' tale or whatever. You know, old wives' tales are the things that people say, but they're actually all wrong. Twinkies don't last. It wouldn't have lasted. I feel like I've read that. I don't know if that's true.
Feel like the director of Zombieland, and I don't even think Zombieland is that good, but it felt like it was at least a director with a vision. The vision was just not what I like.
It's totally got its own thing.
Yeah, it really felt
it
stylized.
Is. For sure.
Really not what Venom is, which feels like the polar opposite.
Are you saying that he directed Zombieland?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then Gangster Squad.
Okay.
Then Venom.
When you first said Gangster Squad, I thought his first movie was Gangster Squad, then Venom, and I was just like, this.
And then another one, 30 minutes or less, which I've never heard of.
It's just like to go from Gangster Squad to Venom. I could be wrong. Maybe Gangster Squad made a lot of money, but it's fucking nothing. I hate it so much, and I loved gangsters at the time. You know, I'm not a big fan now. Like I'd just be like, I don't know. The Irishman's really grated me, where I'm like, I don't really care about this universe. all this world of just shit cunts murdering each other and being awful. Like, that whole gangster world isn't as cool anymore.
I guess it's, with The Godfather, they get you with the music
And
the romanticism.
I would probably still very much like The Godfather. Yeah. There's that bit where he beats someone up with like a bin lid, and he misses by like 45 meters. That's my favorite moment in cinema history, because that was like when I was a kid, and it was just me noticing. I think that's just the first time I noticed
they don't really hit.
That it wasn't real. That I was like, he missed him. Yeah. And they kept it in.
And he misses a few times.
Yeah, probably. For me, there's just this one memory of him just being like, whoa! And the other guy's like on the other side of the road being like, whoa! And it's just, but the whole scene builds really nicely too. And
you couldn't check the film till the next day, so.
Oh my God.
Back then, back in the 70s.
Yeah, right.
So they were like, oh yeah, we got it.
Oh, I'm so glad we don't have to deal with that stuff. I just wouldn't have made any films if I'd had to do a film. I'm just too lazy. I like the digital. I don't know. But then maybe again, if it was all we had, we would have just done it, because that's sweet. Whereas being able to use a little camera and be like, and like, my mum's little camera, take the USB out when I was like 10, being able to do that. It's just so easy. My dumb brain can do it. But Godfather's cool. What are we talking about? Venom? Venom. Sorry.
That really does sum the movie up. The song at the end. I mean,
so fucking.
If you hear that song and that song appeals to you, go watch Venom. Venom's your kind of movie.
I love Eminem, but it's not a good song. Maybe I was just not in the mood to like hear, but it really made me like go like, whoa, what the fuck?
This doesn't happen anymore. People don't make a song for a movie like this anymore.
With like a huge famous singer like Eminem.
Like he just did it for the movie, and that
it's called Venom. It's like a whole
what happens now with movies and someone making a song for a movie is like what Post Malone did with Into the Spider-Verse.
Did he make that for the song?
That song was made for that movie, and when they were animating it, their song wasn't done, and they were working on it at the same time.
Really?
Which makes it all the more impressive that it all came together, and that song was a big hit in its own right, because the song is about what's going on in the movie, but that song stands on its own as well.
Yeah,
and is not. And the song shouldn't, in the context of the movie, be about the movie. Whereas at the end of Venom, it's him saying the title of the film.
Venom!
And then rapping about what happened in the movie.
Yeah, I presume that's what he's doing.
And it's
very Will Smith Men in Black.
Yeah, it's really not. It's just an era ago of film. Like it's pre-Marvel. It's 2 decades ago of movie making. And
it's so tone deaf to this superhero universe with. Like superhero genre is the biggest genre in movies now, so it's so crazy to think they forgot.
Amy Pascal is aiming for the MCU, yet makes that decision. Why do you think they want you to be a part of the MCU when you're getting Eminem to do the song? Do you not see how that decision runs counterproductive to you trying to get into the biggest cinematic universe on Earth, where they're making very specific, stylistic, formulaic choices so that everything fits?
It's fascinating because I think it's just one of those decisions, like I guess all decisions, where someone just went, let's do this, let's bring it back. And then someone asked Eminem, and then he said yes, because they paid him $20 million or whatever. And he's like, I love Venom. Venom! Venom!
I don't even think $20 million is what gets Eminem to do anything. I feel like he has so much money, it's just that he probably had some vague memory of the comic book character.
He's like, I love Spider-Man 3. It's the best Spider-Man. And they're all like, Eminem, will you please fucking leave? What did you say to me? I love Spider-Man 3. I keep saying it. I love it so much. Especially I think,
that would be a more interesting
the only
discussion, I think.
What's better?
Over Venom.
Is Spider-Man 3 good?
Well, yeah, or just talking about that movie.
Yeah, which at some point I really want to do the Spider-Man movies. And because there's just so much. It's just, I find, it's awesome. I think Spider-Man 3 though, the only thing I now see is that the visual effect of Venom looks better now. Whereas I didn't think it looked bad at the time. Any final thoughts on Venom? I feel like I've probably said the things I have to say. I remember that I hated the villain, and that started there were 2 key bits that I was like, maybe.
Villain motivations are all over the place. Hero character, Tom Hardy, Eddie Brock, probably the most realized. I mean, definitely
Only just though.
only just, and probably looking at the whole thing has more to do with Tom Hardy putting that work in and trying to figure out what the character is, what the scene is, what to do here and there, because the only person really with any personality in the movie is him. And I think that that's just generally what he brings something different to every role. I haven't seen a lot of what Riz Ahmed has done, but Riz Ahmed feels like the guy who just comes in and does Riz Ahmed. He's not Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy's coming in and he's going for a thing.
Yeah.
And it will be as well realized as probably the director working on it and him meshing. And it's almost there, but not quite. But it's something different. I like that he's kind of a roaming independent investigative journalist, and they've kind of updated it, kind of like what they did with J. Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man.
Yeah, give it a new.
That's all fine. That's a
twist.
great starting point that never develops into much more. You're fundamentally misunderstanding what is appealing about this character and what to do with this character. This character is an investigative journalist, and he makes videos, and maybe you use his new ability to go and do some of that stuff. Maybe you use the plot and the premise that you've created to create interesting situations where characters you've introduced, develop relationships with one another and have an arc and grow and change and become new people, and having a symbiote attached to you would turn you into someone else, and follow that through and explore those ideas and do something. And instead we get really kind of just a little bit of potential that doesn't go anywhere. Nothing's realized properly. Nothing's been thought through. We don't really know who the villain is. He's kind of an amalgamation of lots of things we've seen in movies, which is kind of what everyone is.
But with nothing.
No direction, no purpose, no goal, nothing you're trying to say.
And then the actual
nobody
effects.
really has anything that they're trying to say here. And the closest a person has to having something to say is Tom Hardy with his performance, which is why that's the closest we get to something engaging in the film. And probably the only reason it made all the money it did, because I feel like if you swap him out and you put someone way worse here...
If you give another... Well, you said the guy's name, but the villain, that actor...
You get Riz Ahmed
you
to
put
do
him
that.
in that?
I reckon this makes 300 million, maybe 400, if you're lucky.
Oh no, I reckon
Like
now you've said all the words and the things, and the thing that suddenly popped out is like, it's Tom Hardy, because as soon as he got the Venom suit, I'm like, I'm really having fun with him. I was so surprised. I don't remember feeling like that last time.
He makes you say, why is he doing this? Because he does good stuff. And if he's doing it, there might be a reason. And there wasn't, but he thought there was, and he went for it. And maybe it was just a payday. Maybe he went, I've tried a lot, and now I want to
I'd love to be
this.
able to buy a new yacht. That's probably what he's thinking,
Yeah.
And he has to be there for 5 days. They're like, you can do... No, you know what it was? They're like, Tom Hardy, you want to be in our movie? He's like, how many weird voices do I get to do? Because it's 2 or I'm out of here, baby! They're like, that's exactly how many weird voices we want. 2! So, on weird voices, my favourite thing about Tom Hardy. What's your favourite Tom Hardy weird voice? It's Bane.
Yeah,
okay.
It's Bane.
As soon as I said it, I'm like, it's obviously Bane. It's
I
so
just
good.
tried to think of what else there was.
Oh, I feel like every movie he's in
Mad
now.
Max.
Mad Max, he's done a weird as fuck voice. I don't even know what that is in Mad Max. I just feel like every movie. I'm like now realizing I can't think of any either, but I feel like it's every movie he has a voice. But this one, I feel like for Eddie Brock is like particularly funny. Like something about it is so like, because for me in my brain, Eddie Brock is like the big muscly journalist who's a bit like. Rrr.
See, I have any.
I'll show you a picture of him from the animated show that I watched. That's kind of the things I watched like 3 or 4 seasons of that show like 3 months ago. So that's like the freshest thing. He's been like 5 episodes, like barely in it, but
I just have
that's my visual of it. Yeah.
I have no connective anything
Tissue,
to Eddie Brock. I don't think I've ever read the only Venom comic I've read is the first issue where he
appears.
gets the black suit, which I don't think Eddie Brock is in.
Maybe. No, I don't know. I can only go off what I've seen on the animated show, which is actually hilariously like the Sam Raimi stuff is like really similar to what I think just happens, where he's like in the church, he's like, nah! And Eddie Brock's at the bottom and like, nah! And then drops on him, and he's like, nah!
My biggest problem with Spider-Man 3 is just that it's a coincidence that the meteor lands next to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
just
guess
like,
that's just
nah.
I guess that just is like
You can't. That's too big a leap for me. I never get over that.
Really?
Every time I watch it again,
Fascinating.
because he's never this lazy before in the trilogy or after, even in this movie, to do something as lazy as he was just there in the park at the right time and the symbiote just got... All you need is the symbiote to land, get a like, this is actually one thing this Venom movie does better.
Don't you dare say
Gets
that.
a random person first and doesn't
Actually,
find Eddie Brock until a bit later.
And,
And that doesn't even matter that much.
but it only gets him because he's investigating. Like, he's there for a reason.
It makes sense within the story.
Yeah.
Initially, it should just be a random person, or what you do in Spider-Man 3, if you have to, for the purposes of the story you've got here, is it has to attach to him first. He investigates the meteor. It's not just a random thing.
Okay, yeah.
All you got to do
he
is
sees the meteor
Spider-Man
and goes,
swinging around. He sees a meteor hit a building or hit the Central Park.
And he
he
goes,
swings down and has a look. It attaches. Done. Now I'm cool with it. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah. It's so funny though, because things like Spider-Man 3, it's like in the plethora? Is that the right word? Doesn't matter.
Maybe.
It's in the... Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's in the... I'm going to say plethora. It's in the plethora of films that I saw too many times where you say this and I'm like, no, it's not that word.
But
like
I know
the circle, like the grouping.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that word, but it's just one of those movies where it's like, you're saying that. I'm like, you're right. It's a coincidence, but it's not a coincidence to my brain because it's just what happens in the movie that I've seen a million times. Like there's no... Like when we were watching Pirates, I had to really try and like... For the first one particularly, I had to really strip away like the fact I knew every second and moment and beat and everything to like the bone where it was like, I could probably quote it if I wanted to be that guy, just as it was happening. So this, you saying that, I'm like, yeah, it is a coincidence that the black goo lands. It's all like...
And he's just on a date.
He's on a date and like on the web or whatever. But it's like, yeah, that's just because, I don't know, it's so fascinating. I'm like, yeah, that would be better if he was swinging about. And that's a real simple change.
Very easy.
And then because he can be like, what's going on with this? There's nothing here. And then we're like, oh no, it's in your backpack, Peter.
And then he turns
what's going
around
on with your spider?
and you see it on there. I don't know.
It's so cool, yeah.
There's a rule in movie making, storytelling in general. Coincidence can get you
into a problem, but not out.
Well, then that does work for this, because this is into a problem. But no, it doesn't work for me.
But it can just not work. Like, coincidences can just... For you, it's just a feeling.
It's just
like, you just don't want it to be so simple. Like, you had the same... I feel like we had this conversation about Infinity War, and you found Thor's quest to get the hammer.
There's
super unsatisfying.
Because there's no stake.
No, totally.
There's no drama. There's no loss. There's no growth.
You are
no
100% right. But for me, it's just a man who's broken, who has a conversation with a raccoon boy. That's like, that he's just broken, and then he decides to sacrifice himself in front of a son, and he does it because he's the greatest man ever. And for me, it's like a fake... I don't know, for me, it like totally works because the whole point is to get a big hammer thing that's going to fail. It's like, it's the thing where we think it's going to end like a superhero film ends, where he comes in, he's like, I got you, bro. But that's like the twist. So for me, it like is deeply satisfying, and you'll never be able to convince me otherwise. But I bet you I can't convince you my point. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's just a feeling. Like a coincidence, I think, can just be like totally like, I don't know. I think coincidence can work a lot because it's just like, well... You know, sometimes things just gotta happen. Like sometimes, like I feel like a bunch of times in Thrones, there's that coincidence of they're just all in that one bar right now. But it's like, yeah, because I want they just happen to meet on the road that is 1 billion miles wide in this mountain. Yeah, because I want to see them fight now. Like I want to see them. You know what I mean? Like sometimes coincidence just has to be.
Yeah.
But then everyone can be individually like, nah, no good. Make it better. You know? Because a lot of Venom was like, you could have made this better. But I guess it just doesn't matter. We'll make $8,100,000. Wait.
800 million.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like I'm saying a small number maybe.
It's crazy that it made that much, and I think
it is crazy, isn't it? It's so much money. I wish I had that much money for making something terrible. True. Like, it's kind of inspiring. We don't have to try. We can make a movie. It'll just be bad. It just has to have Venom in it, apparently.
And just hit like just enough beats, I guess, to get people through.
It's technically enough. You know, like there's an action scene where he's got the Venom and it's doing the thing. Then he's got the car. Then he's Venom. Then he's jumping. They talk. Then there's a big CGI mess. and him and his girlfriend have like a kind of mildly, like a mild arc.
She becomes
light and tangy arc.
She becomes female Venom at one
Oh,
and then sexy Venom.
Incredibly tight forming Venom, which made me laugh so much because I'm like, what the fuck? Venom's like...
I thought that was the point where, alright, it's going to get weird and I'm going to get into this movie now, and then she just transformed back or transferred it over to him.
It's just like, he's so big and muscly and so much more. It's just so funny to me that like Venom, the symbiote itself, is very much like the time that Venom was probably created in the comics, like a very old time when like, I could be wrong, but like there was a time when a lot of these characters in all this stuff was just incredibly big, muscly, over the top, and then the females were like really weird V-shaped bodies, and she had that same it was just so tight.
Yeah.
It was just like, it reminded me of the under the skin thing, where it was just like, it's not even veiny, he's gone sexy because she's a girl now who's so...
But if the male version is that ultra buff, that's the...
No, for sure. But it's just it's like a 70s porn star symbiote. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, so Venom's all big and... Yeah, you're right. If he's going to be the big muscly Arnie...
Like, this looks like a furry costume or so,
that made me... Maybe they just put that in, being like, we need to get... we need the Venom fans to be like, hey guys, sexy Venom's in this. You're going to want to...
Was it Rule 34? Isn't there like an internet rule? Like there's
I've never heard this.
There's like porn of everything, and there's a female version of every male character, and I don't know.
Yes,
something like
that's
that I vaguely recollect.
There is now, if there wasn't, which there definitely was, a Venom porn. Oh my god, that's so weird. All the tendrils and stuff. I don't know. I think I might be done with. I don't know.
There's not much to say. We said a lot.
I feel like in the first 20 minutes we were talking, and I was like, holy fuck, this is going to be our first not 5-hour podcast where we actually talk about the movie for less time than the movie went for, which I don't think we've done yet. I feel like we talk for so long, and I always feel like, I know I've got a lot to say, and I thought I had a lot to say with Venom, and then suddenly I was like, I don't think I have anything to say with Venom. I feel like we've actually said
there's a lot to say about how little there is to say about this movie, I think.
Yeah, isn't that weird? It's just...
How vanilla, how middle of the road, how it tries to do things that you see in film. It's just a kind of weird amalgamation of lots of things that resemble things that we've seen. It's based on intellectual property. It's a comic book movie.
It's a villain. It's got all the...
It's your big studio corporate thing. It's lots of things, but there's just no underlying vision. Nobody really wanted to make this movie.
Yeah.
That might be the big problem. Like, no one really wanted to, like, let's bring this character to the screen and let's do it justice.
I've been writing my Venom movie for 6 years. I finally cracked the last part of it. I've got it. Let's do it. It's like someone's like, we need to make a Venom movie. Someone write words on a page.
Who is
enough
statistically, in our corporate environment, clinically the most right person in the Sony algorithm of filmmaking, whose name comes up, Gangster Squad.
Some fuckhead's like, I just watched Gangster Squad on like Stan or whatever, and it was technically the actors said words and were in the frame.
It was a movie that came out.
Yeah, they were wearing costumes, and it technically made money somehow. Or did it? Let's not check. Let's just get in. Or they just... I don't... this image of them just opening a room with all the shit Sony hack directors. You know, in the Rick and Morty episode where there's the Jerry school? Like that, where you open a door and all the directors are just there and they're like, and they're just like...
Mark Webb.
They're just like... Yes, all of them. They're just there and they're just like... And he just points and one's like... You know how the Jerry's like, me? Much? And the one's like, me? And he walks out and is like, what did you last do? Gangster Squad. I don't care. Shut up and make my movie.
Good enough.
Yeah, man. Good enough. Just get in there.
Spoiler Talk is produced by KCBN Studios and Space Kraken Media.